Hello, I'm Toycat, and finding the Stronghold is traditionally one of the hard parts of beating Minecraft. You have to craft a late game item, the Eye of Ender, and you have to follow a bunch of these to about 1,000 blocks away from spawn, sometimes further, and then you have to dig down from the exact place it takes you, and then maybe you'll be lucky enough to find a Stronghold and be able to beat Minecraft. What if I said there was another way though? And indeed, this seed presents a really fun one, because if you type it in and press Create New World, then you'll spawn in a place you won't believe, because yes, you are genuinely right here on top of a stronghold. The late game structure that traditionally takes people upwards of an hour to find in their world, sometimes much longer than that, is something that you can spawn directly on top of, and it's truly incredible until you realize that you're not just on top of a stronghold. Again, I just spawned here, I have not walked anywhere, but also there is a second structure, the abandoned mineshaft, and indeed abandoned mineshafts are great ways to access ore, but this ravine that we're in as well gives us direct access to not only coal, not only iron, but you might have spotted there's some gold ore just over there as well. That is truly incredible if you ask me, but it gets even better than that, honestly, I think, because as you can see, this ravine that contains the abandoned mineshaft and the stronghold, two structures at the same time, also just so happens to have a village in it. And if we hop into creative, because we don't really have many other options otherwise, we can punch this wood to get a crafting table. It's funny, it's kind of like a blessing and a curse at the same time. It's a very tricky spawn to work your way out of, but it's worth doing, because as well as these three structures combined, it also has a fourth structure floating over the top of it, and that fourth structure is a village, but not just any village. As you can tell, it's actually an abandoned village haunted by zombies. Haunted village is definitely the wrong term, but I like calling it that anyway. It's truly incredible that all four of these things collide at all. Again, I really wouldn't have believed that this would be a thing on any seed when I started Seed Sunday all those years ago, but also it is something you spawn on top of. You spawn in the ravine, because Minecraft spawns you on the highest available block, and that's usually the surface. Sometimes it's a mountain, but in this case, when it tries to spawn you in a ravine, it realizes that there is nowhere else it can take you, and so it puts you directly on top of a stronghold. A stronghold which, by the way, is actually a library room, so you can get direct access to enchantments while you're here. Again, there is no way to use enchantments like this Thorns 1 and Impaling 4 book in the early game, but the fact that you have access to it is what makes this seed incredible. And look at this, by the way. You can see how the abandoned mineshaft crosses the stronghold in more than a couple of ways. You might think that this is everything the seed has to offer. Spawning on a stronghold honestly would be more than enough by itself, but the fact that it keeps on giving and giving and giving, the fact that four structures combined together, the fact that there is direct chests with, you know, torches, bread, and name tags above spawn, you might think that that is enough for you, but let me show you how this just gets crazier and crazier. So first of all, you spawn in this ravine. It's something that, again, by itself would be too many layers of interesting, but what if I said that just to the left of this ravine, there was a second one, also known as a canyon. But this ravine canyon thing also has a second one, literally, you know, like 70 blocks to the west. That's kind of rare by itself, but then this second ravine also has, because it's so close by, the same abandoned mineshaft and the same stronghold. So there is actually a stronghold, and there is a there's a stronghold and there is an abandoned mineshaft going through two ravines, which is kind of cool. But what if I also said the stronghold goes low enough that you get things like this? Look at this. The stronghold is below lava layer, which makes for some incredible visuals. You can also punch any blocks around here and you'll see the very bizarre thing that is like, oh yeah, there is lava all the way around. But what if I said also, by the way, this is right here. I'm not mistaken here. This is actually a dungeon that spawned here as well. This is a Minecraft mob spawner, which is what a lot of people call it. There was actually intended to be a mob spawner block right there that was overwritten by the stronghold, meaning that right here, again, I really can't overstress the craziness of this. It's a mob spawner inside a stronghold with a ravine outside of that with an abandoned mineshaft going through it underneath a village. It's such insanity, and this is just the overworld. By the way, in case you think a stronghold going down to Y10 is low, you actually might be shocked to know that this one goes lower than that. If you find the parts of the stronghold over here, you can see how this is where the surface of it is. Oh, actually, this goes straight into lava, it looks like. But you can see how there is parts of the stronghold that are down so deep that any of the blocks you break will dig you straight into lava. So very, very interesting stuff. But it gets more interesting than that, because if you go to the Nether, a very normal thing to want to do in Minecraft, especially if you intend to beat it, and this seed challenges you to beat it in such an out there way. But if you do go to the Nether, let's just say Also, look at this water. That is so strange. But if you do decide you want to beat the seed, because who doesn't want to beat a seed that offers a challenge like this? If you place a nether portal anywhere around spawn, we're just going to use the spawn as our example, but what you're going to get is a nether that looks something like this. Oh, this is... Honestly, it's kind of interesting, like, placing... spawn, because the portal is so low down, you end up spawning below the biome, which is probably not so ideal. So yeah, bear in mind that part of this was because of the fact that we placed our portal low down, but notice how there's this big black stone ceiling above us. It's very interesting, right? We must be below a basalt delta, except we can't be below a basalt delta because there's no black stone everywhere else. Huh, that sure is interesting. Also, I hear some piglins around there. Oh, is that me spawning with my portal directly below a piglin bastion? Seriously, this has never happened to me before in my many, many hundreds of seeds I've loaded up. But this great seed found by Cracked Magnet, haven't referenced that enough yet. He found it for the benefit of having a random seed glitchless series be done. This seed has some crazy, and he wanted to like have a fun challenge seed that was unique in a lot of ways. This seed is unique beyond all beliefs for that reason. Serious kudos and credit to him for finding this insanity right here. Because again, you might think, wow, it's kind of nice that like you spawn below a bastion, you have direct access to gold the moment you go into your nether. But if you can traverse this bastion, and you know what, honestly, I find traversing bastions to be kind of tricky because usually you don't have gold armor, so you're getting wrecked as you doing so. But let's pretend that you have perfect, traversal skills. You'll notice that first of all, this thing is entirely like trapped in the wall right here. But yeah, what you'll notice when you do make it to the surface of this bastion, this, by the way, incredible bastion, does have to be said, what you'll actually find is that it actually crosses over into a warp forest, which is really interesting and cutesy, I would say. But way more interesting, I'm sorry to say it, is that this bastion also itself spawns directly underneath a nether fortress, which means, look at this. There is a nether fortress bastion, weird combination again. The thing that's meant to be impossible because of biome spacing has happened again in the weirdest way possible. And this time, because the nether fortress is above the bastion, it means it's the bottom of the nether fortress that's been overwritten. So stuff like this, there's meant to be a staircase leading to a hallway. The hallway doesn't exist because the bastion has overwritten it. It's really, really weird. The whole hallway around here that's meant to exist just doesn't, and instead there is a bastion until right over here, where again it gets very strange again. And over here you can see where the entrance is meant to be. Isn't that very cute? Also, by the way, another great biome. Love the red forest, the warp forest next to the crimson forest is always a nice thing to see. But yeah, the fortress next to the bastion is a really, really rare sighting, but to have it on this seed is what takes this over the top in rarity from like, oh yeah, that's really interesting, you might like to use that, to like, how is a seed this rare even found whatsoever? And you might recall the abilities that Cracked Magnet has in being the first person to find a seed with all 12 IF enders filled in, and I guess recently he's been applying his seed magic to finding seeds that look like this. And you know what? That is nuts. That is bananas. That is any, what other foods can represent that something is crazy, because they need to be listed right here. But let's go back to the overworld and let's just really point out the last truly incredible things about this seed, because I did spend a lot of time just looking around, just appreciating some of the nuttiness of it. Again, I wanted to show you some highlights. There are so many things about it that like I thought like, oh, that's cool, but like that's another seed. But there are so many things that I just go, wow, this is this seed only kind of thing that makes you appreciate how wild and nutty it can be. You can see why this would have been such a fun seed to watch people play. I'm looking at this seed and I'm like, this would be such an interesting survival experience. I'm honestly incredibly tempted to try it myself in a big way. But yeah, when you look at this, it's like, yeah, this is a really nice seed with by the spawn right, and it has that incredible nether spawn as well. But what about when you go a little bit further beyond? So mostly it's like somewhat generic. It has all the things that you'd expect, but like they're impressive normally. But when you see them here, it's like, oh, it's just a desert temple or a pillaging tower. The only thing that I found where I was like, yeah, that's pretty nice that that's really close to spawn, is that people spawn in the ravine, which obviously It's great if you want to have a head start to fighting the Stronghold. It's a nice challenge seed, I would say. I like that it exists for that reason, but also this means that if you want to, you can take advantage of this seed giving you a hellish way to spawn people in so they can't get out of their situation that they're in. Again, if you spawn people here and you remove the wood, what can they do? I mean, you'd also have to take away the dirt, but like they wouldn't have access to blocks that they can mine themselves. They'd have to mine out, you know, it'd take them a really long time to get out there. So you'd have a hellish spawn for people, and so you might like it as a long-term survival world if you hate other human beings. And you know what? Isn't that a common stance to have these days? I mean, what good things have humans done? Actually, you know, here's the crazy thing. Humans have actually done most good things and bad things, but let's not dwell on it. This is Seed Sunday. This is not philosophizing about whether people can be good or bad inherently. But so what can be good inherently, objectively I'd even say, is the Shattered Savannah, which is not just reasonably sized, it is this well sized. And then, crazily enough to me, again, it kind of shocks me this is true, inside that Shattered Savannah, it's meant to spawn in the regular Savannah, and that's where it spawned, but it goes up here into the Shattered Savannah. There is part of a village, but again, it's not a real village, it's an abandoned village. So, if you would like to potentially reclaim this village, and maybe make it all the way across the Shattered Savannah, which has this delightful grass here on Bedrock, then that is something you can do as well. And yeah, also, you know, I spent a lot of time looking around this seed. I found some things that I really enjoy. I like that desert village over there. The biggest reason why is because it has 3 towers. And the second biggest reason why is because as you're going to this weird coastal desert village, which reminds you that, you know, even the craziest Minecraft seed by its spawn will get less crazy as you go further out because of the nature of these things. But if you look at this village right here, it is a village that is this size. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. But 3 of those houses are like mega tall. I think that's interesting that like by the coast they have these giant towers. I also think it's interesting that you can see a mesa biome from here. Again, mesa biomes are great. People like them in general for survival worlds. And you know what? The biggest reason this seed is great though is because of what you find between the Shattered Savannah and those 3 houses. That's right, you heard it correctly. They have a desert well. I didn't say it yet, but they have a desert well. Free access to water, free access to sandstone right here in the desert. It's wonderful. But to conclude on this seed and why I think it's so great, I think this is just a really interesting example of a seed that gives you a really good one-time survival experience that can be later extended into a real world if you want it to be, but also I think that you could just enjoy as like a, yeah, this is a wacky thing that you can spawn into if you want a really distinct survival experience. Do you want that? Honestly, I think most people aren't saying yes, but I think even for those who don't, this is the sort of thing you look at and go, yeah, that is a wreck, and I love looking at wrecks. Everyone loves to see a good train wreck or two, and today, this is a seed that is a train wreck in just the perfectly interesting way that I really want to, like, that just inspires me to play it myself. And, if this doesn't inspire you to play, I question, what's up with you? Do you not like Minecraft challenges? Because I like Minecraft challenges. Thank you for watching this video. Did you know more than 99% of house fires have people who aren't subscribed to the channel? So if you want to avoid fiery doom applying to things that you care about, then what you want to do is you want to hit subscribe. Thank you for spending some minutes today with me. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.